tourism and extreme adventure sports is one of the fastest growing segments in travel today. However, growth must be matched with strong safety standards, skilled professionals, and high quality experiences. Our panel is going to be filled with leaders in adventure tourism operations, safety standards, training, and certification, bringing practical perspectives on building a safe and credible adventure tourism ecosystem. So yes, dear lovely people, once you settle down, we'll be starting the next session. அடுத்ததாக அட்வென்ச்சர் டூரிசமை எப்படியெல்லாம் நம்ம வந்து ஸ்கேல் பண்ணலாம் அப்படிங்கிறத நம்ம பார்க்க போகிறோம். ஸோ அட்வென்ச்சர் டூரிசமில் சேஃப்டி, ஸ்கில் அண்ட் எக்ஸ்பீரியன்ஸை இன்னும் எப்படி கொண்டு வரலாம் அப்படிங்கிறத பற்றி நிறைய விஷயங்கள் பேச போகிறாங்க. We are going to welcome the speakers and moderator on stage, and before that we request all of you to kindly take over your seats. அனைவரும் இருக்கையில் அமருமாறு கேட்டுக்கொள்கிறோம். Please do settle down so that we can get it started. So we are going to welcome honorable speakers and moderator on stage. Dear lovely people, we encourage all of you to kindly settle down before that. So travel அடுத்தது வந்து ரொம்ப ஃபாஸ்ட்டாக க்ரோ ஆகிற செக்மெண்ட்னா that is definitely adventure sports. So we are going to hear so much insights about that segment. Okay, so it's time to welcome the speakers on stage.
Hello.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, now it's time to welcome Director at Snow Lion Expeditions and a National Tourism Award winner with deep experience in high altitude expeditions and adventure tourism safety guidelines. So ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together in welcoming Vinayak Kal. Welcome. Thank you, gentlemen. Please be seated.
Please. Hello.
Ladies and gentlemen, as you know, growth must be matched with strong safety standards, skilled professionals and high quality experiences. So, idha patti nariya pesradhukku we are welcoming intellectual speakers on stage. அடுத்ததாக, we'd like to welcome award-winning mountaineer and adventure entrepreneur, recipient of the Tenzing Norgay National Adventure Award with decades and decades of experience in expedition leadership. Put your hands together in welcoming Mr. Shekhar Babu on stage. Thank you for joining us, sir. Welcome. Okay, so next up, we are about to welcome founder and CEO of Sky High India and a pioneer of India's skydiving and aero sports ecosystem, working closely with authorities on safety standards. A USPA certified skydiving coach, he established India's first skydiving drop zone, maintains a flawless safety record and works closely with government and DGCA. And he has done more than 1,000 plus jumps till now. Put your hands together in welcoming Mr. Rudrabanu Solanki. Thank you for joining us, sir. Last but not the least, we'd like to welcome founder of Head On Bungee and an international adventure tourism expert known for setting world-class safety and training standards in bungee jumping. He has also set up the highest bungee jumping station in India, and he also works globally on this. Ladies and gentlemen, it's my pleasure to welcome Mr. Oliver Heaton on stage. Thank you so much for joining us. We request the moderator to kindly take over. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Welcome and am I audible? Good afternoon, friends. Thank you for joining in. Thank you for your time. Thank you to the government of Tamil Nadu. Thank you to Department of Tourism Tamil Nadu for inviting me to moderate this very important session of adventure tourism. Our bread and butter is adventure tourism, so all four of us are very happy to talk about adventure tourism and try and make you all more aware, more enriched with information. Our aim from this session would be to leave you a little bit more enriched, exposed, aware of adventure tourism in India, its opportunities, its challenges, and what all we try to achieve while doing our day-to-day business. A little disclaimer which I try to do is like talking about adventure tourism we have been given 40-45 minutes to talk about it. It needs much more than that, probably hours, if I'm sure everybody would agree, but we'll try to sum it up within the given time. I mean, not sure what you all understand from adventure. Some people have different imagination, different picture in the mind. Adventure is a very simple activity, anything which will involve physical activity, some natural environment, cultural immersion can easily be taken as adventure. Traveling in India in itself is adventure. India, if I talk about a little bit about India, it is a 12-month destination with the support of adventure tourism in India. Generally, it's a hot country. People, foreigners especially, would like to travel to India within the winter times, but adventure tourism positions India in a 12-month destination that you can come in the summertime and then well supported with the other regions and areas of our country. It also, what is most special about adventure travel, adventure tourism, because of the nature of our itineraries, we go deep into the remotest parts of the country, which takes the money and the economic impact to the remotest part of the country. It takes the money to the last mile, which is very special and very different from the other verticals of adventure, the other verticals of travel. Adventure tourism has about 30 odd verticals, largely divided between land-based, air-based, and water-based. We would be talking about a few, and of course, we would also be talking about how to scale responsibly, and as the session says, safety and experience, what role they play in scaling up and also in operating in a day-to-day way. And Tamil Nadu tourism is at the cusp of taking the leap in tourism and also in adventure tourism. We will try to get out of some important inferences from our session, which will help the Tamil Nadu tourism to take the lead and chalk out the future for the next 10 years or so. If I start with Oliver, and welcome everyone.
Hello.
It's a pleasure to talk to you all. And so if I ask you straight away, would you give us a global perspective on how the adventure is shaping up in India, how you see its evolution in the past few years, and what do you think about in the next few years?
So I think that's a really good question. Now, bungee jumping has absolutely been growing the past 5 years. It's started off here, and now it's absolutely growing. The thing is, India tends to go abroad to do these extreme activities. And it's such a shame because Tamil Nadu, for example, is such a beautiful place. It's a shame that Indians are going all the way overseas to do these extreme sports when they should be doing it in their hometown. So I think it's growing in an absolutely lovely way. It's just important that we can work with the governments to make sure that the safety standards are always on point. There's no fun unless the safety is the top notch.
True. So, Rudra, taking the cue from that, what do you think if the little brief which Oliver gave us, you have been in business for some time now, and especially a vertical which not many are doing or probably no one is doing. What would you recommend the tour operators to focus when they start their business in terms of adventure tourism and specifically in your vertical?
Hi. Well, I feel like as far as adventure tourism goes, there is internationally a lot to learn already. Some of us may be pioneering some stuff in India for sure, but it's not stuff that has not already been explored outside of India. So there is no shame in learning from somebody who's been more experienced than you are. If you are able to take up standards that are already existing in other countries or larger countries with larger populations taking to adventure are following, it makes the job a lot easier. Of course, some of the regulation may be challenging, or some of the SOPs may have to be tweaked to fit the Indian context. But I feel like it's very important to not try to reinvent the wheel, but try to work with what's already there and take it on from there, because countries, if you talk about skydiving is an old sport, been around since the 60s. In India, we are only one company that's skydiving, but in the US, there are about 300 facilities. In Europe, there are about 500 facilities. There's about 34 in New Zealand and Australia. So it's a very popular sport worldwide. And regulations keep updating themselves basis what has happened and what people learn from their day-to-day operations. So that is the one big takeaway for any operator who intends to start something, that you must try to look up to people more experienced than you who have been doing it well, and try to follow what they have been doing right.
All right. So, a follow-up question on that. What do you feel? Are the rules a difficult situation, or is the implementation?
Rules are always difficult to follow. The easiest way
Or,
is to
or
skip
as
a
we were
line.
talking, are we overruled in terms of?
Sometimes yes, there may be situations. Again, I'll take the example of skydiving because of the aircrafts involved. Yes, it is an over-regulated sport, but that also makes it amongst the safest extreme sports in the world. Statistically, you are safer doing skydiving than snowboarding, for instance, which would not feel like the difference would not feel so. But I think the onus of implementation always comes on to the people operating. So that's just something that you have to personally feel responsible to do. Yes, there has to be regulatory oversight. It is very important because people should fear the regulator. But at some level, it has to start from within.
Well, I mean, if I give a little perspective from our side, Shekhar and I have been in this business of for a long time, and especially in trekkings and expeditions, what we have been facing is lack of rules, and we as companies and also as the National Adventure Association have been after the governments and the state bodies to frame some rules, because some of the companies like all of us are trying to follow the rules on our own, while as when there are no rules, so any new entrant has nothing to follow, and they have nothing to lose at the same time. So I guess what I can infer is like it's different for different adventure activities in India. It's very important in the activity which you do of skydiving. Of course, I mean, fatalities or accidents can happen even on a regular cycling trip as well, and that can also be lethal. But probably in skydiving, it's much more higher, and there's already a governing body like DGCA which is in play, and maybe because of that you are overruled. But we can take this platform to talk to the government directly and try and see if we can get some balance of between overruled and aptly ruled, whether it is for your vertical or other verticals at the same time.
Absolutely.
Yes.
I think the onus is also some part on the state governments to
Yeah.
make sure that the activities are regulated, the right regulation is in place, and the right regulation is followed. And like you mentioned, there has to be an entry barrier between starting operations. For us, fortunately or unfortunately, for a sport, for something like skydiving, there is a big entry barrier. If you decide to jump out of a plane, you can't do it without getting into a plane and the right regulation. So that's a big entry barrier, and that may not be true for say, trekking operators, for instance, which is why the challenge. So that's where I think the government comes into play, where if they are able to create a barrier and make sure that you have to overcome a regulation barrier before you start, things can definitely look upwards.
Getting back to Oliver, wanted to ask you another follow-up on that. So you bring us a little bit of international perspective to our discussion, to our conversation over here. So, of course, not everything must be going wrong out here. If I want to draw a little positive streak out of this conversation taking forward, what is India doing well, at least in terms of bungee jumping? What brings you back to India again and again?
If we're talking about India, I love India as a country. The thing is, with the customers that I see every day at jumping, Indians seem to be the bravest. I've worked in so many international sites. Indians are always the bravest. I've seen all walks of life, big, small, it doesn't matter. It's just, with bungee, what our philosophy is from the chin up, meaning it's just what's in your mind. It's not about your physical state, it's about your mind. And that's what I see every single day in India, is that all Indians want to take on a challenge and overcome this fear with bungee jumping. So that's what I think India are doing remarkable. And then even with the government, they are open to creating new standards and developing this. If we look back at the history of bungee jumping, it all started in New Zealand. These were the pioneers of bungee jumping. So they came up with the idea, and then they went to the government and said, look, we need to create these standards. We need to implement this against the whole country. So if you wanted to set up a bungee site in New Zealand, you have to go to the government and get the permissions and the training from the government to allow you to operate, basically. So that's where I think India are doing really, really well. But I would like to see this sort of international way that they're doing in New Zealand, Switzerland, US, sort of that idea, similar to with the skydiving, not reinventing the wheel, but implementing some of these strategies in India, I think would be really good.
How is the ecosystem evolving in the last a decade or so of bungee jumping? What do you see? There's a huge demand?
The demand is phenomenal. So every international site I go to, the number one clients are Indians, always. So the demand in India is just phenomenal. Bungee jumping was very popular in Europe and the US 20 years ago, but it's now developing so much. There's such a high demand for bungee jumping, which I think is just amazing, with sort of Indian culture wanting to take on new challenges, take on new experiences, and that's what bungee jumping is all about, is overcoming those fears. So I think it's just amazing that so many like-minded people in India are wanting to do these challenges.
Thanks. So, Shekhar, with your experience of handling customers for a long time, would you help us understand how customers' expectations and awareness have changed in terms of the changing scenarios? Rudra gave us his exposure of dealing with a very different vertical of adventure tourism. So did Oliver. You have been doing trekkings and high altitude expeditions for a long time, which has the customers for a very long time. Probably if I ask them, they would not be able to give a deeper penetration of, say, 3 decades. How would you express?
No, yeah, definitely yes. Market for adventure tourism in India is incredible, increasing, developing. People are generating interest. There are probably I can say now coming 5 to 10 years, it is adventure tourism which is going to lead in tourism sector, because everyone needs that experience. Like before, somebody going to tour means going to a resort, sitting in a swimming pool, be in the good ambience and spend some time and come back. But now everyone wants that thrill, that experience bound tourism is what the present generation needs. Yes, it is going to increase. And to perspective, yes, I would say it is about the company, how they put themselves. See, give an example of small trekking. So there is a company which serves a Maggie and take them daily. They can serve a Maggie which is 2 minutes cooking, and they can organize a trek. But whereas the same company carry a professional cook and a kitchen along with them and cook proper food, serve properly, take hire trained guides you know, follow all guidelines, proper precautions, etc., then take them. Then there is a definitely the cost difference is there. Now the customer what he wants is the question. Now there are people who say no, I want to go in budgeted trek or budgeted adventure, but there is always there is a danger. But whereas when as both were telling about SOPs, safety guidelines, yes, for some company to follow all those procedures, safety and company, there is a cost. Like for flight aircraft, whether he uses it or not, he has to, for every certain period, like 30 days or 60 days, they have to undergo maintenance. It's a mandate. So there is a cost. Like hiring somebody who is trained, well-trained, certified instructor, whether the trekking happens, doesn't happen, there is certain amount minimum we have to pay. It's not like a freelancer. So everything is cost bound. So that once the customer understands it is easy. Otherwise, like these days everybody is a Google engineers. They search in the Google, see, I don't say Google is wrong, but it is not right. Because Google picks up data from various places.
It may
and
not be
will
the
show.
complete picture. Google
Exactly.
may not give you the complete picture.
Exactly. See, if you search for some trek, it says from 100 rupees to 10,000 rupees. No, but what's the difference in 100 rupees and 10,000 rupees is up to the customer, what he wants. So that's how it is going to be. But definitely, adventure tourism is going to take the leaps and bounds in coming next 5 to 10 years.
I mean, taking the cue from what you mentioned, which we were earlier discussing, that we all talk about being responsible tour operators, responsible tourism boards. But I also want to highlight through this session that it's important to be a responsible traveler as well. And not just while you're on the tour, because responsible traveling has become a little bit fancy word to use nowadays. But I would say when you travel responsibly, before that you even buy and choose responsibly. When, like Shekhar mentioned, Rudra earlier mentioned, that when you buy your holiday, you have to make sure if it is cheap. I'm not sure telling that adventure tours or adventure holidays would always be expensive, but I can tell you they will not be very cheap. So if it's cheap, you need to be very cautious that someone would be cutting the corner somewhere down the line. There are easy adventure trips, there are harder adventure trips, there are softer adventures, there are adventures which are quite expensive, and there are a lot of protocols to follow, like Shekhar was mentioning. Equipments have to be in place. I mean, you need to remember, like for a bungee jumping activity, that equipment is quite expensive, which makes you safe. And if you don't value your life, who will? So it's important to choose very, very well. It's important to book your holiday or book an adventure activity when you're on the ground, to make sure and to try and understand how this operator is operating. I know it may not be your cup of tea, but it's after all your life. I mean, giving a little heads up that Ministry of Tourism and the National Adventure Association some years back got a booklet on the guidelines of adventure tourism. All of us on the panel over here have been the contributors over there. And that book is primarily for tour operators, but I would recommend it to even travelers. It's available free of cost online at Ministry of Tourism's website and National Adventure Association's website. If you look at it, you will get an idea of what to look for. And also for operators also, if any operator will pick up that book and try and follow it in letter and spirit, I can assure you your quality of operations would increase 10 times. So it's important for travelers, what I mean to say. Getting back to you, Oliver, so what does India surprise you positively? Whether in terms of the customers, it's important because we're talking about business here. We're talking about Tamil Nadu tourism's investment, global investment. So of course, all of us over here, I can see we are all passion-driven people for adventure, but we also have to run the show. We also have to have customers. So what does India surprise you positively in terms of customers, in terms of the infrastructure available, and in terms of how the government is behaving?
So yeah, I think with the customers is, as a site that I set up in Rishikesh, the people are traveling miles and miles just to come and jump because they want to experience this. So it's fantastic that there's such a high demand in India with the customers and that they really are wanting to do extreme sports. And I think you made an extremely valid point that it's really up to the customer also to do their research. So when customers come to me, it's really nice that they have done the research and they have researched all the other activities as well, and the reason why they will sometimes pick different companies because they do their research, which I think is a really valid point to explain to everyone. Sorry, what was the other side?
Same question, but so what about the governments? What I know that you have set up bungee jumping in different states of India.
Yeah.
So of course in different states you have different state governments. Of course there's one central government. What has been your experience about that? So that Tamil Nadu tourism, if there are some draws to take away from that, if there are some positives to learn, if there's any negatives to learn, we can let them know.
I think that the positives for the Tamil Nadu government is that they are so open-minded, is that I've been in discussion and they are keen to take on some board of standards for bungee jump, because at the moment there isn't. It's just sort of guidelines of please follow these standards in New Zealand that were 25 years ago. So it's expired, but in Tamil Nadu they're open to try to create something new to be the sort of the leaders of bungee jumping, which I'm really, really excited for.
Rudra, talking about standards and operations, and because you mentioned about the international standards, how realistic are these international standards in terms of Indian conditions?
Well, like I mentioned before, I feel like there is no need to reinvent the wheel. The need is to try and understand a regulation first before you ask that question. And because you're asking me, I'll tell you this. We've been operating for 10 years. We have a 100% safety track record. And we follow the United States Parachuting Association SOP to the T. There are no exceptions made except when there is something that overrides the Indian Civil Aviation regulation. So our SOPs have been formulated. We are the only company currently, so the regulator faces challenges in trying to regulate a single entity. So our manuals basically have the United States Parachuting Association basic safety recommendations. We are affiliated with them and we follow them down to the T, which includes wind limitations, parachute limitations, who can jump with who, for instance, whether I'm going to be a tandem master or Oliver's going to be a tandem master, what kind of experience he needs. So all of us are licensed from there. And again, like I said, wherever there is something that is already working, it's very important to try and learn from that. In the context of mountaineering or bungee jumping, I feel like there may be differences on certain materials to be used for infrastructure building, for bungee jumping, for instance, because where there's snow, there may be different equipment to be used to build, etc. But the principle on which those equipments are built, or the principles on which those SOPs are built, are, I think, pretty common to any global organization. So I don't see any reason to not be able to follow those things.
What would you advise state governments anywhere all across the country, and especially the Tamil Nadu tourism, if they have to be more attractive to, say, skydiving operators, what they should do?
Well, if you talk particularly about skydiving, I think how we usually operate is we try to look for an abandoned airstrip which has not been actively used, or a smaller airport that is not very busy. If it's close to a tourist destination, great. But like Oliver mentioned, we have people drive and fly to us from the length and breadth of the country for skydiving. It's fascinating. We are 2 hours away from Delhi. We're about an hour away from Indore, which is the closest two airports to our major locations. We've gone as far as Jamshedpur and Bokaro in Jharkhand, where we'll be operating. And people fly in, people take buses, people take trains just to come and experience skydiving. So I think what is really important for the state governments to understand is that economies and places are being built around the activities. Back in the day, it used to be that where the hotels were or where the beaches were, tourists would flock. It is now, like you mentioned, experiential tourism, because everybody wants to see more than just a hotel and a swimming pool and a nice place. So they want to see what is there to do over there, and then people plan their trips around that.
Great. Shekhar, tell me, how do tour operators scale without compromising on the safety and the quality, and of course being responsible? Because after all businesses would like to get bigger, if not a very big company, because all of us love what we do, and we know no matter how much you control things in terms of quality, the more you scale, the more it starts getting out of little control. But we still want to be, all of us want to be decently big enough, not just for the sake of money, but for, we all love to spread this joy of adventure tourism to all of us. Rudra would love more people to skydive, Olive would love more people to bungee jump, You would like to put more people on top of mountains, and so am I. So, how do we scale without compromising on quality, safety, sustainability? What is your take?
Uh, I'll get back to the same policy, what you have mentioned as Otoy and Ministry of Tourism and the several state governments also working on the safety guidelines. That is one, as a standards to be followed, rules and regulations. But we have been trying to popularize, there is a word 3G, GGG, guides, guidelines and gear. So what we talk about, the first is quality guides, certified, trained guides. It is not certified, trained and who are frequently upgrade themselves with the skills and the equipment. See, equipment is definitely is upgrading year by year. So quality trained guides, upgrading regular training is one. Second is gear. Obviously, once they purchase, like we are talking about flight or the bungee equipment, so they need regular maintenance. There is a SOP. But whereas in our industry, there is no SOP. It is up to the company. But I'm sure you and me will check definitely before starting a trip, we'll check our equipment and we'll repair and we'll get the things ready. So purchasing the branded or the certified gear is one part, but maintaining it and keeping, storing it in a proper way is the other one, other G, what we call as a gear. And third is guidelines. Guidelines either by the state or by the central or by the company themselves, they can have a SOP. This is the procedure. If incident happens, then who will contact whom? What is my backup? Everything preparing for a company, it is easy for operations. I know it will avoid almost any incidents. To see, adventure itself is something different. So incidents do happen, but how do we react in during the incident? See, even in the hotel, even take this hotel, Sheraton, if somebody is serving a coffee, there is some issue with the coffee or less sugar or over sugar. The time you request somebody, how they respond is the matter. It's not, the complaint is not that coffee is not good. Once they're, they say this, boss, there is a problem with your coffee, can you please change? The other person, how they react is the problem. Same in adventure. Incident happens. See, the adventure is unknown. It happens. I'm not talking about any accidents.
As
That's
we
what
say,
some
there's a-
unexpected happens. But how do we react? How do we respond? Are we prepared for that? That does matters. So there we get the quality of the guidelines. Say GGG, that's 3G is what we have been talking about. We're trying to popularize. So that is the basic fundamentals to any company to stand up and grow, or maybe years together. And like bungee and obviously skydiving or the expeditions and treks, once we start initially, it will take time to get popularized. Once it get popularized, then after a certain time, then it gets bored. So they need somebody. They need something else. Like they were different destinations they are doing. So near Indore, and they went all the way to Jharkhand, and they are going to other destinations also. So diversifying after certain years is also required. Otherwise, people gets bored with the activities. Like same mountain, people will not climb again and again.
True, true. We face that sometimes. That reminds me, I had this question on my mind, but good that you spoke about it. It's a question to both you, Rudra and Oliver, about the gear and also training of your personnel. Because I understand it's a challenge to get the quality gears in India. It's quite expensive to import. Even for training also, you have to go all the way to different countries. So speak to us about the gear and the training, the challenges, and if at all there are any opportunities, so that we and the government can try and work on it.
I think I just want to press upon gear because early on in my career as a skydiver, I got some very interesting advice. So the first time I spoke to somebody about starting skydiving in India, the first question he asked me was that, how many skydives do you have? And I had a aviation background, but I had 0 skydives. So he said, well, first you need to slow down, and the first thing you need to think about is going skydiving. So I went skydiving, and till date, it is that one advice that stays with me, because you would understand this as a mountaineer, that I would not use any equipment in my commercial operation that I would not jump or that I would not put my mother or my child in. So if you can work with equipment that that you would put yourself or your family and let them use that equipment, sure, then I feel like that equipment is probably safe to use. In terms of personnel training, I feel like, again, there are standards available. And if you, as an operator, can have some experience of the operation itself, that is definitely a very big advantage. I feel like where scale is difficult in adventure, but is important, is that usually adventure companies, the ones that do well, are driven by individuals who follow that adventure themselves. That is why scaling is a challenge. But at the same time, if you build a team that is as motivated as you are to scale that operation with you, so it's going to totally depend on the people around you, the people you surround yourself with in your organization that are going to help you scale.
So with bungee jumping, what's really important as well is that we have a backup for all the equipment. So for example, if you're attached by your ankles, you'll have a backup in full arrest. Now, 20 years ago, that wasn't the case. It was just one attachment point, one bungee cord. So it would be similar to with skydiving, just skydiving with one parachute without the backup. It's sort of a no-no. So this what's really important with the equipment is that you have a backup for everything. Now, these carabiners that we use are rated at 36 kilonewtons, or 3.6 ton. So when someone's jumping, you're not getting anywhere near that weight at all. But we still will have a backup, so it's a backup of the redundancy. So even with the harnesses as well, the full factor that the harnesses are rated to are nothing what your body goes through. So the point is that we overcompensate the safety to minimize that any equipment failure will ever happen. And that's why we actually follow the EN, so the European standards for full arrest harnesses, and the same with the bungee cords, that we manufacture them ourselves, and we import the rubber, and then we certify it, we test it. So we stretch the cord out 3 times before we do anything. Then we'll do 3 bottle tests before the equipment ever gets into any use. So that's why the equipment is so strong, but it's always important to take that backup just in case.
Thanks. I've just been asked by the lady to try and sum up. It looked like we just started. So before I sum up and try to sum up, one last question to all 3 of you. What should India do to be treated as the trusted adventure destination for the world? One sentence.
It's hard to sum up in one sentence. Make India the adventure tourism. Stop going abroad and bring it to India. Make all the foreigners come to India rather than the Indians going abroad.
I think one thing that would definitely make India the global hub for tourism is investing in the right infrastructure in the places where adventure tourism is available.
Yeah, agree with both but sitting in Tamil Nadu, if we see, Tamil Nadu has a vast opportunity, especially the coastal water sports and the treks, the hills. It's a combination of, not like Himalayas, obviously, but it has a coastal zone, forest, hills, rivers. So the multiple adventure activities are very much possible. I'm sticking to Tamil Nadu, sitting in Tamil Nadu with the investment. And there are guidelines also in place in Tamil Nadu state already at certain level. So probably they're preparing operational guidelines and then drawing a line between the quality and good quality, like drawing a line between the qualified operator and not qualified operator. That will definitely take the safety or the level of adventure operations not only in Tamil Nadu, in entire India, to the next level.
Thank you. So if I try to sum up what we discussed, and of course, like I said earlier, this topic is endless. We could go on for hours and hours, but I know there are other sessions to be held in this hall after us. Otherwise, I can see that the audience also is quite interested to hear us more. So there is no doubt about it that there is huge potential which India has. There is huge potential which Tamil Nadu also has for adventure tourism and tourism. So what I feel and what I would like to convey is that growth is inevitable. The adventure tourism growth is inevitable, but responsibility is a choice. And the growth of adventure tourism will depend on how well we choose today. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for that insightful session.
Do we have any question answers? If you
Yes,
would
we
like
can
to
take a
open it
couple
for?
of questions.
I guess
Yes,
we-
please. Could we pass the mic?
Yeah.
Hi, my question is related to bungee jumping and
Sure.
paragliding. So, we run a group.
Can you
trip-
bit a bit louder?
Okay.
Yeah.
Is it audible?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. So we run a group trip company, travel company. So basically, we get a lot of enquiries just to experience bungee jumping and paragliding. So because of that, we, I mean, going to Manali and Rishikesh. So in that sense, what would be the potential of Tamil Nadu to bring that bungee jumping and paragliding to here? Is there, yeah.
I think that's a really good question. So at the moment, there's a lot of bungee sites in Rishikesh, as you're probably aware of the tour operator, but there's not much in Tamil Nadu. So it's a fantastic question, and that's why Tamil Nadu is beautiful. You've got the lovely temples, you've got the beaches. So I think it's an absolute must that bungee jumping should come here. You shouldn't have to travel all the way to Rishikesh. It should be on your doorstep. So I think it's a good question, and I really hope in the forthcoming months that we'll have something set up for
So
you.
you have the plans, is it?
Of course, we have a plan, and hopefully you'll be the first customer that jumps.
Sure, definitely.
Any other questions? Sure. Not much. You would need a mic.
Hi, I'm Angel. Hi to all, and thanks for the session. Now, I just have a doubt. Like, see, all these adventure plays are not regular city where people can come and stay if they want to do 2 days or 3 days, and mostly hotels are not available because it's only a seasonal business. So, how can a homestay business can support yours, or your companies are tied up with any homestays in such case? I represent homestay, business.
Thank you
Yeah.
for this. I just answer and then you can continue. Thank you for this question. That in my initial opening remarks, I mentioned that the adventure tourism takes the money to the last mile, and that is where homestays also come into play. We organize, of course, treks and expeditions and other trips wherein you get the ponywalas involved, you get the cooks and the helpers and the porters involved, which are all locals. And homestays have been part of our ecosystem for a very long time. And so homestays are our natural choice when we go deep remote into the valleys.
Yeah.
Chekas?
Same thing.
Yeah.
See,
So-
now we are talking, there is a product called homestays.
Yes,
but
now
when we
there-
initially started,
Yes.
there's nothing a product
Yes.
called but homestays,
Yes.
but we were doing the same thing. We
Okay.
used to stay in villages, we used to request some families, we used to stay in their houses. So what Ladakh and Uttarakhand, what we have been doing from several years is same. Now the word homestays got as a branded and it is developing. Yes, all adventure, maximum land-based adventure activities are sustaining with the homestays only.
Yes. So if you could connect, we'll regularize homestays and connect with certain companies, and we like a small homestay operators can,
We would surely be happy. All my advice to all the homestay owners would be, let them be homestays, not guest houses. Because wherever
Yes.
I travel now in the country, not everywhere, many places, they write homestays, but they are guest houses. And there's a huge difference between homestays and guest
Yes,
houses.
true.
When a traveler, be it an Indian or a foreigner, wants to look for a homestay, they want to stay with the family.
Yes.
So all the homestays, when they started decades back, they were run by families because family wanted to run it, and that is what they had to do. But nowadays they have employed the locals or someone to take care of this, and they are not anymore homestays. They are guest houses. You are free to run a guest house, of course, but then call it a guest house or a homestay. That's a pure advice which I would like to give every homestay owner,
Okay.
because that takes away the experience which a customer is looking for.
Okay. Yes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you so much for giving us a fabulous session. Ladies and gentlemen, a huge round of applause, please. Now it's my pleasure to welcome Commissioner of Tourism, Managing Director, Tamil Nadu Tourism Development Corporation, Ms. J. Innocent Divya, to kindly join us on stage and felicitate our moderator and speakers. Welcome, ma'am. Thank you, gentlemen. We absolutely loved it. Thank you. Ma'am, kindly do the honors, please. Huge round of applause, please. Thank you. Thank you so much. And we'll quickly get one group picture. If all of you could join. Yes. Thank you. Thank you so much. Okay, so we are heading towards the final session.